Hey everybody, how are we doing? I know there's been a lot that the Trump administration has been up uh, to try to make our lives miserable. So there's really more than I can possibly keep up with as an individual content creator. I have a day job, um, but there's one particular issue that I think is the most important issue, and it's this due process issue. Now, this clip here is about a week old, probably by the time you see this. It was Tom Emmer being interviewed on State of the Union with CNN's Dana Bash. Now, however you feel about Dana Bash and CNN, it's probably irrelevant. I think she does a pretty good job here. I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. I will play the video and I'll comment as I go through. But I think this is a good depiction of how they feel about the whole due process issue and how they're going about it. And she hits him with a really tough question at the end in regards to ignoring due process for regular American citizens. So let's get right into it.
And another federal judge inched towards holding the Trump administration, at least officials there, in criminal contempt. Here with me now is Minnesota Congressman and the number 3 Republican in the House Majority Whip, Tom Emmer. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Easter to you. Thanks for coming in on this holiday. I want to start with what the core issue is here, and that is the fact that the administration detained and deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia without any due process, violated a judge's deportation protection order, refused to provide evidence in court to back up its allegations. Does that concern you?
Actually, if you look at this, it's very interesting when people talk about the fact that this illegal alien, who is not a resident of the U.S., he is a citizen of El Salvador, actually did have due process in an asylum hearing where his request for asylum was rejected. The Trump administration, as part of the promise that they made during the campaign, President Trump made it very clear. I'm going to get rid of the gang members, the murderers, the rapists, the terrorists, and this is part of that process in keeping that campaign promise. And I think they're doing a good job at it.
There's no evidence that was provided because there was no hearing in which to do so. That
She does a really good job here keeping him straight. He comes in hitting his talking points really well. He's trying to keep a straight face and look like he knows what he's talking about. But he's going to hit all his talking points. So I'll keep it going.
that he is either a murderer or a criminal or a gang member. Isn't that something that should be provided to a judge, even an immigration judge, before somebody who has been in this country illegally, no question, but has been in this country and has appeared before judges before should be afforded?
I think he was afforded that due process. In this case, an illegal alien was transported back to El Salvador. The administration initially thought it was a mistake. Subsequently, it says it was not a mistake. The courts, interestingly, have suggested that we need to understand what facilitate means in
Really?
the order. So they've deferred back to the lower court, Dana, to tell the administration, facilitate means this. And what's going on in El Salvador now is you have a citizen of El Salvador that is within the country of El Salvador. It really isn't the U.S.'s ability to go in and remove someone. It'll be up to the president of El Salvador.
Can I just go back, because you said a couple of times that he did get a court hearing. Are you talking about the 2019 hearing that he had?
I'm talking about when he requested asylum and it was rejected. I'm talking about that hearing, which I'm not going to get into the transcript. Nobody seems to want to talk about the MS-13 issues that are in that transcript. Again, his request for asylum, he had due process. It was rejected.
Okay. Well, a couple things. First of all, if you talk about the process, the one thing that the judge did do is say that he had a protection order and that he should not be deported to El Salvador. And yet he was. Specifically, they said not to El Salvador because they were concerned about his safety.
I figure that the court process will continue, Dana, but I find it very interesting that your network and others.
This is where he starts going off the rails and starts accusing everybody of loving illegals over regular citizens and all of that. But stay with me here. It gets better the longer you stay with it.
Like the senator from Maryland are doubling down on an illegal alien when they won't talk about all the Americans who have been harmed by illegal aliens. And you've heard the story over and over about Rachel Morin, the senator's own constituent, who he doesn't even give words of comfort to her family, but he will fly down to El Salvador to deal with an illegal alien who is a resident and a citizen of El Salvador.
Mr. Emmer, I hear what you're saying, and I think that both things can be true.
She's right. They've been rolling these mothers out, and it's sad what happened. But however, both things can be true at the same time. So she does a really good job there, I think.
And the question here now is how this fits into the larger question of the Trump administration following the rule of law and abiding by the rule of law, and also following the way that the courts say that things should go. Let me just read what the appeals court ruling said in this particular case. It said that, and this is somebody appointed by Ronald Reagan. I just want to add that. It's difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case, it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. This should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. What's your response to that?
Yes, and it's been referred.
She has to get him to keep going there because he's stunned and doesn't know what to say.
To the lower court to interpret what facilitate means. Dana, you want to make it about a much bigger thing. This is.
It is about a much bigger thing, you dope.
Isolated incidents like the order that was issued after midnight this morning, saying that they're going to delay some deportations so that the lower court process can continue. These will happen on a case-by-case basis. And again, the administration is absolutely following the law. I see nothing that they've done that's illegal. Certainly, judges may disagree here and there, but the Supreme Court has been pretty good about supporting what this administration is doing legally.
So just on the Supreme Court, the idea that the Supreme Court said that the administration should facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia, and, we have not seen any evidence that the administration has done that. You don't see any defiance of the Supreme Court there?
Not at all. I see a citizen of El Salvador who is now in El Salvador. The United States can't go in and extract people from countries.
But you can sure ship them off there, right?
This is going to be up to the president of El Salvador, not up to the Trump administration. I think you made my point in that the court has said it's to facilitate. And what does that mean? So they've sent it back down to the lower court for some more interpretation on the term facilitate.
They want to play stupid on facilitate, but I mean, a fifth grader could tell you facilitate means to make something happen. Get real.
Facilitate. What does that mean exactly, Dana?
Well, we don't know. That's the point. That according to, you heard Senator Van Hollen say that he believes that it means that they need to try to make it happen through channels with the leader of El Salvador. I want to ask you about another idea that President Trump is.
Pause it here because this is the big killer. She's going to ask him about where President Trump has said that he's looking into putting citizens, the worst of the worst, they say. So keep that in mind, the worst of the worst. That definition could definitely change over time, but she's going to ask him to defend that. And the deflection here is just next level. Let's go.
exploding. He's done so repeatedly. And that's the idea of deporting U.S. citizens convicted of violent crimes to El Salvador. You're not only a lawmaker, you are an attorney. Do you think the federal government has any legal authority to do that with American citizens?
I think right now what he's doing is absolutely legal, which is removing those that do not have legal status in this country that have proven to be the worst of the worst. This is what he promised Americans he would do.
That's the second time.
And you talk about me listening to the senator. The senator literally doesn't do anything for his constituent who is murdered
Deflection.
Mercilessly by an illegal alien let in under the Biden administration's open border policy. But boy, when an illegal alien gets deported to his country of origin, he flies right down to represent him. It seems to me that these Democrats are representing the illegal aliens against the very constituents, the U.S. citizens that they're supposed to be protecting.
What about the idea that the White House says that it is looking into whether or not U.S. citizens who are convicted of violent crimes can be imprisoned in El Salvador?
Well, again, what they're focused on and what you and I are focusing on is what's actually happening, which is deporting terrorist cartel members, rapists, murderers. The worst of the worst is exactly what Donald Trump promised during the campaign. And that's why 77 million people, Dana, elected him to follow through on this promise. And that's what they're doing.
Keep in mind, this interview is happening, I forget exactly when, but a week or so after Trump, whenever he met with Bukele, he was caught on a hot mic saying they're looking into sending citizens, the worst of the worst, down there. And Tom Emmer wants nothing to do with this. And this is frankly why Republicans across the land are avoiding town halls to this very day. Here comes the final attempt.
Okay. I just want to give you one more chance to say whether or not you're okay with U.S. citizens, the idea of it. I know it's not happening, but he has actively said more than once that they are looking into it. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah. Again, the issue that we're dealing with is I've got a president who wants to protect U.S. citizens from violence, from crime, having their children solicited, murdered, etc., versus Democrats who seem to want to protect illegal aliens in this country for whatever reason.
Tom Emmer, thank you so much for being here this morning. We are out of time. I appreciate you coming on. Again, I hope you have a nice Easter with your family.
Happy Easter to you, Dana.
Thank
you. All right. There you have it. He wanted nothing to do with it. She did her best to be polite. I don't know how these Republicans live with themselves, but you heard it from him. He doesn't want to answer that question. So that should tell you everything you need to know. They're looking into how to do this to regular citizens. As of the time I'm making this video, we have judges being arrested for interference, right or wrong, but they're making a big show of it. So the march continues. So keep your head on a swivel here, and give me a like and a subscribe to stay tuned, because I'm not going down without a fight, and I hope you won't either. This fight is not over, not by a long shot. So thanks, and see you on the next one.